talk. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you'll meet customers who are so boring, customers who are not really engaging, and you want somebody who can keep the conversation going, even when things go dry.
Yeah.
And I've seen guys who are given a chance who are introverts, but ideally at some point, you just find them going to chats.
But I can promise you're not ready for the rejection email. Utalia wewe.
Yes,
Woo!
yes,
You
yes,
think breakup text
yes.
hurt. Utaangalia your email in disbelief.
Interestingly, I always expect the rejection first. And people who you don't want to share just work, you want to share work and life.
Yeah. Okay.
People who you know you can go to when you're in trouble. People who you know that yes, we're in the same office, but if I needed something, I can call Mercy.
Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Perfectly Imperfect with me, Marcy. Thank you so much for joining me on yet another episode. You know, I still can't believe you guys love my content. Like episode after episode. Stop. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for joining me on this episode. Right before I talk about anything else, please, I hope you have subscribed to this podcast. We are at 230 subscribers, I guess. I'm almost throwing my phone in the sewage so that I don't see those numbers, but you guys can really help me get to where I want to be. So kindly subscribe. Remember to comment, like, and share, and follow us across our social media platforms. Perfectly Imperfect with Mercy on Instagram and TikTok. And my personal page is Gatweri Murioki, though I don't see how that is going to be helpful. But just in case you want to see me, Huko, you can see me there as well. Just a reminder that we have our merchandise. As you can see, I'm on brand today. This is actually a sample of our crop t-shirts that we have on sale. Yeah, so if you'd like to get yourself a part of Perfectly Imperfect, we have t-shirts and journals. There's a how to order thingy that's on your screen right now. Just call that number, text that number, DM the Instagram page, and we'll definitely sort you out. Now, today's episode is really interesting. I've looked forward to this episode for the last 2 weeks. Like, I feel like this is a collaboration that was initiated by the Lord himself. Because I'm going to tell you why in a few. I have a guest. I'm not alone in studio, and we are going to talk about the positive side of corporate. I know you guys are used to me slandering corporate, but imagine there's kuna some glitter in corporate. We're trying to pick those little positive things in corporate so that we can see how helpful they can be in your own corporate journey. Like I said, Hisi manual, Sisi, we are not giving you a manual. Like, we are just trying to guide you from our own experiences. Now, I knew my guest, the one I have in studio today, I'm going to call him Wandeto. Miss G atajiintroduce kama nani. But Wandeto was my colleague at my previous job. And this is just the kind of person you look at and you're like, I want to sit down and listen to you talk because I know you have something to say. Like, and it's si wale watu wa kublaba. He's not a yapper. He's the good kind of yappers. There's me who can just yap. Then there's Victor who will yap no like, okay, interesting. So yeah, I have Victor Wandeto with me in studio. Victor, introduce yourself. Tell us who's Victor.
Yes, you said you call me Wandeto, not Victor.
Okay, Wandeto. Of course, I know who Wandeto is, but for the sake of my fans, I'm like, tell us who you are.
So I think I have so many areas I can introduce myself by, but ideally, my name is Victor Wandeto. Do we have to? No, I'm going to say my age. I was about to shout my age. Yes, my name is Victor Wandeto. I am a husband. I am a father, and I work in the corporate world as a corporate trainer. Yes.
Nice. So training. That's really nice. Yes, he was actually a trainer at my previous job, but sadly he did not train me. But I'm sure he's trained so many wonderful people out there in that job. Like he's just those kind of people you want to have in your corner, corporate wise. And no shots allowed, please. Victor is married. Thank you. Asanteni. Tafadhali, hold your horses. Nitawaletea single men very soon. Anyway, so Victor, let's go. We are going to talk about the good things and maybe the lessons corporate has taught you. Now, this podcast the rest of the episodes that I've heard about corporate have really not been the best things we've said about corporate, but I know you've been in that space for longer than I've been, and I know you have like so many lessons to share. So just tell us how long you have been in corporate.
I was going to ask you actually, how long have you been in corporate for you to say I've been there longer?
Yeah, it's a year and some
okay,
some months.
So let me see. I think I've been in corporate now for 5 years. See, it's not a lot of years, but I'd gladly share my experience over those 4 5 years.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Okay, that's interesting. 4 5 years. Wow, that's a long time.
Really? I have people who've been there for 20 years. Yes. But 4 years works.
20 years, like my parents.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but their corporate is the boring corporate.
But it's still
The
corporate.
boring. Okay.
You'll realize it doesn't change. The tools may change and the systems may change,
Mhm.
but people tend to be the same. Like we say, there's nothing new under the sun.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. In the last episode we had, actually, I think the previous we had with Celine about job searching, and we were saying how ghetto interviews are.
Mm.
What's your view on like interviews, on those all interviews you've been on? What's one thing that's standing out kwa hizo interviews?
Very good question. I think my perspective of interviews
Mhm.
changed as I got into corporate longer. What I came to realize interviews are meant to do is because the other person does not know you.
Mhm.
And sometimes we feel like, but I'm really good. I know how to do these things.
Yeah.
So I should be an awesome person in these interviews. But think about it. This person has never met you.
Mhm.
All they have is a piece of paper about you
Yeah.
that you probably submitted through a Google form. That's all they can see about you. And they want to put a face behind the paper.
Yeah.
So what I tell guys on, if you're ever going to do an interview,
Mhm.
jiuze kama mboga.
Okay.
They want to hear the lies. Okay, I'm not telling you to lie to them,
Yeah.
but ideally they want to hear the sweet words. They're like, I'm here, convince me. That's all they're screaming at you. So the moment I got that perspective, it changed everything for me. So whenever I'm in an interview, I'm like, you know what? You really want me to convince you that this
I'm the one for
profile
the job.
is
It's me.
it's me.
Yeah, it's not just written.
It's not just written.
Yeah.
Especially if you go to those companies that are genuinely interviewing.
Mhm.
Of course, we know there are those ones that are just fulfilling righteousness with the
Yes.
process.
Yes.
But for those ones that are genuinely interviewing, they're more like, we have this profile
Mhm.
and we want you to convince us that you are the person that fits this profile.
Mhm.
Recently, I was with a friend who did an interview for a global position. And with that principle of kujuza kama mboga, he did so well. And they told him, you are the third person we've interviewed. We still have 5 more people. Allow us to interview the rest, and then we'll get back to you. 5 p.m. in the evening, they called him. They're like, you know what? You actually did so well in the interview. We don't need to interview the rest.
Wow.
So it's about how well do you sell yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's how it's it. Jiuze kama mboga. That's my line.
Okay. That's nice. I'm sure you have also interviewed people at some point.
Yes.
Especially
where we were working.
Yes, where we were working.
not those high level
Yeah,
interviews,
yeah.
but we did some.
Yeah,
Yes.
you did some. I'm
Mhm.
sure I'm sure you've seen so many personalities of
Mhm.
people who can sell themselves,
Mhm.
kama mboga.
Mhm.
What happens to these other people who you see there's potential but haitoki, like like you can just, there's so much more they have to give, but it's just not.
Why are you making me sound like the corporate? Mi ndio mtetezi wa corporate. But ideally, let's think about it this way. There are so many ways you can interview people, and it depends with the roles. An example, if I'm interviewing for a software position,
Mhm.
I can easily ask, what softwares have you developed?
Yeah.
And can you speak about them?
Yeah.
Just to see how well is your work.
Mhm.
With that kind of position, that could work.
Okay.
If I was interviewing as a farmer, I'd be like, which farms have you worked on?
Yeah.
Can the owners confirm that you worked on these farms?
Okay.
You're getting?
Yeah.
But now think about where we are working. It's a customer service role.
Yeah.
Or it's a role where you're speaking with people.
Yeah.
How-
Interacting with people.
How well will I know you're good at the job if you can't convince me?
Okay, makes sense. So, okay, in that case,
Yes.
now do you feel like now that job, like customer service now, has like a specific group of people who can work there, and sadly another group of people who cannot work there?
Now you're going to a very good question, a question of skill set.
Mhm.
And my belief on skill set is there are skills that can be taught and there are skills that are natural.
Okay.
An example is we can all be taught to sing.
Mhm.
And we can all sing when we are taught.
Yeah.
But there are people who are just so naturally gifted at singing.
Yeah.
An example, no one here was born knowing how to drive a car.
Mhm.
We've all gone to driving school
Yeah.
to learn how to drive a car,
yeah.
ideally. But there are people who can really drive so well, and there's who cannot drive so well. So it's all about when we are in that interview and I'm listening to in the interview, we're just trying to measure versus the criteria. So these are the criteria that we have. How well are you fitting into this criteria?
Okay.
Of course, there are people who you notice, this person seems like they have some good skill set,
Mhm.
but they just need to polish it up.
Mhm.
So you can give room for that. But you can only give room to so many people because at the end of the day, there are certain things you want to achieve. So you can't be gracious to everyone.
Okay.
Sadly enough, you can be gracious to
It's
everybody.
actually sad.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense because now I feel like in that job, almost everyone there was an extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, you see how you see in other like corporate firms, people are like, this is maybe Mercy, she's always talking. Us in our office, there was never that because everyone is just always talking.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, that makes a
Because
lot
the
of
criteria that
sense.
we're looking for people who are what you're saying a natural yapper, people who can just talk.
Talk, yeah,
Because at the end of the day, you'll meet customers who are so boring, customers who are not really engaging, and you want somebody who can keep the conversation going,
going,
even when things go dry.
yeah,
And I've seen guys who are given a chance who are introverts, but ideally at some point, you just find them going to chats. They're not doing
yes, they
calls
don't want to do calls,
because if they get to calls, they get nervous. And even in the calls, the customers are not so comfortable.
yeah,
And the calls end up escalating to go to supervisors.
yes,
So the question would be in which industry are you in? And which skill set are they looking for in that industry?
mm-hmm.
And even if, this is what I think about it, even if I'm an introvert
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to a highly extroverted field, there are things you can do. You don't have to be an extrovert,
Yeah,
but you can know how to express yourself even if you're an extrovert.
yes,
Because at the end of the day, imagine you're an introvert and you get a managerial position and you have to be doing presentations to bosses.
yeah,
How will you do that if you're not able to
if you're not,
express yourself?
yes,
So there are skills that we can say you don't have to be at level 100,
mm-hmm.
but you can try your best to be at level 30 or 40.
or 40.
That way, you're able to meet the standard or to meet at least the bare minimum of whichever field you're getting into.
That makes sense, guys. These only gems of wisdom. Now, do you remember how your first after your I'd say your first rejection after an interview?
In love or interviews.
Get out.
Okay. So you're talking
No,
about interviews.
nitakuita kwa
Yes.
nini ya mapenzi.
It's interviews.
Yes, in interviews. Do you
Mhm.
remember your first?
That's actually interesting. So what I can say about my journey in career, my journey has been very interesting.
Mhm.
So ideally, I never wanted to get into corporate.
Oh, okay.
I never intended to get into corporate. I always intended to get into pastoral work.
Yeah, he did.
That was my desired journey.
Mhm.
So everything I was working at in life, I was working towards becoming a pastor.
Mhm.
That's everything I was working towards.
Mhm.
So while I was doing, actually before we got to the place where we were working,
Yeah.
I was a trainee pastor somewhere.
Okay.
And then we sensed this may not be actually the field that we are called to be doing. It's time to stop it and to figure out something else.
Okay.
So the job that I got, where we were working, I got the call from someone. They just called me. They called my wife. They're like, "Hi, there's a place you've gone to and they're looking for people. Are you interested?" She's like, "No, I'm not interested." I was like, "Yeah, give them my number. I'm actually interested."
Yeah.
So that's why I came for the job. And I got the job at the first go.
Ooh.
And then when they were looking for where I was working as a trainer, I still got it. I think the other rejections I've gotten were probably when I was interviewing for positions outside of the company.
Okay.
But then there's a reason why they did not hurt so much. Like I do remember the rejections, but there's a reason why they did not hurt so much. And the reason being, I realized I still did not have the skill set that they needed. Or maybe they needed somebody qualified with certain certifications. I don't have them. I'm just gambling.
Okay.
But my attitude has always been, when I go for interviews, what's the worst that can happen? The worst is me not getting the job, and the best is me getting the job.
Yeah.
And I like the best more than the worst. So let me just go ahead and go for the interviews.
Okay.
And my thought process has always been, that's the worst, not getting the job. And immediately I'm done with an interview, I'm done.
Okay.
I don't sit there and thinking about if I get the job.
Oh.
What if they give me this salary, they give me this promotion? I don't think about them.
I need to learn from you. Mimi ni wale wa tushaanza kujiimagine hiyo salary.
Na hiyo ofisi, na hiyo
all
salary.
the things I do with that MacBook.
So actually, our process at home is you do an interview, you are done, move on to the next one.
You and your wife.
Yes. You do an interview, you're done,
that's
move on to the
interesting.
next one. You do an interview, you're done, move to the next one. Because if you keep there thinking about and meditating about it, that's where you get heartbroken, when you get that regret. So we actually even looks, and there's this thought process. If you're doing sales, you need to at least get 7 no's before you get your first yes.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do 10 pitches, you might only get like 3 yeses. So I'm always aware that there's always going to be a no. And there's somebody who said, always look for the no's more than the yeses.
Mm-hmm.
So go for those interviews and try to learn as much as possible. So look at your interviews as you fine-tuning your pitch
Okay.
rather than you trying to get the job. I know that's very bad for somebody who is actively looking for a job. And you're
Yeah.
thinking,
Yes.
what is this guy telling
That
me?
is
I
what I wanted
I want
to
a
say.
job. Why are you telling me to look for the nose?
That is exactly what I wanted to say, actually.
But ideally, I even apply for positions where I know I'll get a regret letter with the idea that if they call me for an interview, they give me the chance to fine-tune my skills.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is more of, even when I leave that interview, I'm making sure I leave the interview with feedback. Okay, so what did I do well? What did I not do well?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe sometimes you really did well, but they had more qualified people than you.
Than you.
That's why you did not get the job. So my perspective is, you do an interview, you're done. Move on to the next one.
Wow, that's really like that's interesting, because me, I can promise you I'll dwell on that. Like I'll almost throw up, like checking my emails. Like, you guys have not replied. Oh my God. You know, like I also feel like that's a very good perspective. The way you said, like, you also apply for things you know you're not qualified for, but you just want to get the feedback. Aki, that's a very interesting point of view. Me ningekuja hapa na notebook, guys. Ni kama
That's it's recorded. but then think about it this way, Mercy. If you try to, this is the thing.
Mhm.
I know I am qualified and I know I have skills, but the job interviews are not for them to validate my skills.
say that again.
Job interviews are not there to validate your skills.
Wow.
You know you have skills. It's just that my skill set are not required right now in this company. But there's another
Wow.
company out there
Mhm.
that's going to be interested in my skill set.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Whew, that's really deep.
Yes.
So now, speaking of, you've been there for like 4-5 years. I'm sure you've had like so many, like I'd say, connections and relationships with people. How do you really know how to define, like, this is a work relationship, Nanivo? We cannot like cross. For me, I honestly wasn't the best person in like keeping in touch or keeping tabs with people outside work, But I've come to actually realize some of the people I met, especially at my previous job. My next guest is also from my previous job, and there's I feel like kuna tu zile zenye you can't just huwezi sema tu ni hivyo ni job na ni job pekee, because there's some people that are actually helpful, right? There's some people you need to keep in your corner. How do you exactly define these like friendships, relationships at work? How do you know like where to draw a line?
There's a book by Miles Monroe where he talks about the power I'm forgetting the title. He always uses the word power in his titles. the purpose and power of friendships.
Okay.
Or the purpose of friendships. And that book was such a gift for me in campus because it helped me disseminate the levels of friendship.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is I may not go to all of them, but there are people who are just strangers. You meet them out there. And then once you meet these strangers, they become acquaintances. Let me give you an example. If we work in the same office, we're not friends.
Yeah.
We are acquaintances. We are brought here by work. So that means even if I talk to you every day, we are acquaintances.
Yeah.
And then you move from acquaintances, you go to friends. So I'm forgetting these levels. But so there was acquaintances, there was close friends, there was intimate friends, and I'm forgetting other two levels. But ideally, if you move away from acquaintances, so for me, the most important thing is I always made sure I define who are acquaintances.
Okay.
So that I don't get tied emotionally.
Okay.
Like, we are not close. we just
yeah.
work in the same office. That way, I don't have any emotional expectations on you. That's the first place.
Okay, that's
and you should not have any emotional expectations on me.
Of you as
we
well.
just work in the same office.
Yeah.
And those are the people, when I move to a different company, I never expect you to call me. Because we are just what? Acquaintances.
Okay.
Now, when we move from acquaintances, there are those friends who now move from acquaintances and to move to just being friends. Like people who you just meet and you talk on a regular basis. People who you converse, you go to have meals with. Now you're moving more intimately, you're sharing more time.
Yeah.
And for me, when I look at friendship, I look at friendship in the form of, are we aligning in terms of values? Are we aligning in terms of mostly values?
Yeah.
Because even if you are very skilled, I don't want you in my circle if you're going to bring in the wrong values.
Okay.
Because that's what makes me. So ideally, there's that definition of, okay, so we are becoming friends, but because of work.
Okay.
So there are people who I know right now. If I needed a car fixed, I know who I would call. If I needed a website, there's someone who I know I would
Yeah.
call. If I needed decor for a wedding, some say decor or decor. If I needed decor for a wedding, I know who I would call.
Decor.
Like there are those people who you know for certain things, and you maintain relationships with them based off of that.
Yes.
But you know, these are not people to have near your kids.
Okay.
Because you know, you're getting what I'm saying.
I get.
Now, when you move away from that, now you move to those people who are very close and people who you don't want to share just work. You want to share work and life.
Yeah. Okay.
People who you know you can go to when you're in trouble. People who you know that yes, we're in the same office, but if I needed something, I can call Mercy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and then now there are people who it's not work. You're just close, like people who you just went to school with together, and you've become very, very close friends.
Yeah.
And you're sharing life with forever. And then there are those intimate friends like a partner.
Yeah.
So you see that there are those levels to it. So with that definition, I'm always sure of where we at.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I feel like now the problem with, I think, this generation or with Gen Z, we really are not able to define these relationships. You know, we just trusting to make everyone our friends, including our
Close
bosses.
friends. Yes.
And then when you get that termination letter, you're like, he did this to me.
He did this to me.
How would you know? And I feel like that's why actually so many of us are not really able to navigate corporate in the best way possible. It's because of these things. Because I feel like you would feel like if I'm seeing you every day, we are talking every day, then we are friends.
Then we are friends.
So now I can randomly just ask you for 5K because sina fare ya kukuja job. And I expect you to send me the 5K because you sit next to me every day at work.
Mono Jan is to me.
Like, yeah, exactly.
There are people who've really been hurt when I've said no to them asking money from me. But then it's because I don't know your character. We are just colleagues. Like we just sit in the same office every day. But if you think about it, all we talk about are PowerPoint slides and Excel sheets. We don't talk about anything else.
And tagging each other in
you
emails.
Don't even know how much money is in my bank account.
Yeah.
I've never told you about my troubles.
Yeah.
And instantly you're asking about your kid is missing school. Could you help me with this amount of money? Of course, there's a situation where you see like, okay, how much do you need? You need 10K. Of course, the other question I always ask myself is, can I lose this 10K or not? I'm like, am I comfortable losing 10K? No. How much am I comfortable losing? 500. All I have is 500. Shika 500. Yeah, ndio kunirudishia niko sawa.
Ni sawa, chonjo.
But it's that definition of where are we in terms of our relationship.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, which makes a lot of sense. Like now, seeing all these people you've trained, what's the most fulfilling part of your job? All these personalities that that have come through your hands, like what's most fulfilling about that job? You wake up every day and you're happy to do the same role.
Good question. You should have asked first if I'm happy to train.
I know you are.
Maybe I do it for the money. but
I've really seen you I really wish I had sat in class, but I've seen you train, and maybe I've had people say about how you train, and you can tell this is someone, atakama you're doing it for the money. That's not the first reason why they're there, Yeah.
So if you remember what I told you a few minutes ago, I was getting into a pastoral journey, which was all about teaching and working with people.
Yeah.
So my desire was always to work with people, to equip people, and to see people succeed. And I think one of the most enjoyable things with training is seeing people grow.
Yeah.
Like, you see, I train you today, and then tomorrow you are starting off. I see you shaking the first few days.
Yeah.
And you call me to take a supervisor call. I'm like, no. Have you done this?
De-escalate.
De-escalate first, and then call me.
I think I actually asked you for a soup call. Mercy, I'm doing reports. That's something that you can actually de-escalate. I was like, wow.
Yes, and then you come back and I'm like, have you tried this? Go try it and then
go try it again.
And then come back. So there's that fulfillment in seeing people grow. You see somebody starting off as an agent, they become an SME, they become a TL.
Team leader.
So there's that journey in seeing people grow. And my definition of success, I've always tried to define what success is for me. And success for me is not money. Money is part of it. And what I mean by money being part of it, money will facilitate me to achieve the things that I consider a success.
Interesting.
But success for me is basically seeing people getting impacted through my hands. That's success. And what I mean by that is either by how I teach them or how I help them. So right now I'm also training people. And seeing somebody getting a job, because I'm training people before they get their jobs actually.
Okay.
So training somebody and they get their skill set and then they get their job and you see
Yeah.
them growing and be able to support themselves.
Themselves.
That
Yeah.
is success for
That
me.
is, yes.
And it is very fulfilling for me.
Yes.
So the fulfillment part of me is in helping people.
Mhm.
That's what I love. I love
Okay.
helping people.
That's interesting.
Yes.
By the I've seen people at my previous job. Like I've just come across so many people, and some you can just tell who mtu ako tu hapa because they want the paycheck at the end of the month.
We all want
They're
it.
ni kama wako tu determined to make this person's life miserable. And in the customer side, I feel like if there's one person when you give up on that job on day one, is the trainer. You would really like quit the job because of so if you have, it really helps if you have someone like who also thinks like you can grow, you see. And then now talking of that, do you like take up mentorships? Like, are you a mentor to someone, or is that something you will consider?
That's a good question. Let me ask you the question first. You asked me a question about what fulfills me. What fulfills you?
Right now, career-wise, you got not you hosting me.
You're saying to ask you questions. Let me ask you a question for once. What fulfills you doing this podcast?
Like, I'm sorry, you forgot the rules. It's me who's asking the questions. It's me.
Yes.
Anyway, for me, honestly, I think I also see things from your point of view, in the sense that I'm here to, like, I like helping people. I like seeing people do things that they like. You see, when I see you have potential to do something and you actually do it. And this works actually mostly with my podcast, because I don't even really know where my career life is at the moment. We are trying to resuscitate it. So I see maybe other podcasters, small podcasters just starting off. They're like, how do I do this thing? I help you. And then you send me your first episode and I'm like, come on. Like, I mean, like, for real, as in, And then I see other people like, how did you start YouTube? And then I guide you, send me your first YouTube episode. I'm like, wow, I really like to see that. So for me, helping other people grow as well. And I saw this even like at the previous workplace, where I really strived to help people. And it's really sad that sometimes in corporate, when you're that person who speaks for other people, you're seen as the inciter, which is not always the case, in my opinion. Which is not always the case. Genuinely, kuna mtu hata wajiongelelea. You need to put some sense in their brain and tell them, where kwani uoni this is happening. So for me, I like being that person who's a voice to other people, right?
So for you, that's what success is, when you're able to help others and see others succeed. When
I'm able to see these people carry on with maybe whatever it is, their YouTube, their jobs well, and maybe I had a chance to contribute in that, that's success for me.
Perfect.
Yes. And another, by the way, if anyone one person learns one thing from this podcast, that's enough for me. One person. If one person comments and tells me this is what I learned, it's okay. Hata kama it has 1,000 views na ni huyo mmoja amesema, that's success to me. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So I actually started this podcast to kind of like have that effect now on people. Not just yap about drugs and nini anguka nayo. You see, like you can anguka nayo.
Putting positive conversations in an internet that is full of trash.
Yes. Oh, that was harsh. Yes. Now tell us, are you willing to take up like mentees, and how do we apply? I'm asking for myself, guys.
Good question. I think the question would be, what kind of mentorship are you looking for? Because I think sometimes people think about mentorship in a very broad perspective, but you can have 4 or 5 mentors. Maybe you're looking to succeed financially. I'm not the person. You want to succeed financially? I'm still figuring it out.
Okay.
You want to succeed in that area. What kind of mentorship, if you were to look for, what kind of mentorship would you be looking for?
For me, I'd say career-wise.
Career-wise. Yes. Then with that, there would be, you see, when I talk about helping people, there are people who I can easily connect you to, who would easily help you in that field, as compared. For me, I can help you the 4 years I've done, but the people can help you more past the 4 years or 5 years.
Okay. So in that case then, you're not like the first point of contact.
I am the first point of contact if you want 4 years of experience.
Yes.
Let me give an example.
I mean, that's a lot for someone who's been in corporate for 5 months.
Yes. Actually, I get what you're saying. And I think that's sometimes, and if I was still someone out there, sometimes we look down on ourselves because we sense our experience is not enough. Let me give you an example. You've only been married for 2 years, and you're thinking about guys who've been married for 30 years. You're like, or 28 years. And you're thinking like, nah, there's no way.
Wow.
There's no way I can do, I can help somebody.
Yeah.
But if you think about somebody who is just starting off and they're just dating, 2 years is a lot of time for somebody who's married. And you're just helping them. So the thing is, I can easily help someone within the first 4 years. But remember, I'm not here as the expert. I'm just
Yes.
giving you my experience in 4 years and things I've learned in the 4 years. Like what we were talking about earlier on,
Yeah.
the balance between the importance of doing boundaries in the workplace, things of the sort, things, and especially what I was talking about, kujuza kama mboga. I
Yeah.
can easily sit down with you and listen to you. I can ask you interview questions and hear how you answer them. I'm like, nah, let's work on ABCD.
Yeah.
Let's work on ABCD. Those are things I can easily help
Yeah,
someone
that's really
would easy
interesting.
to listen.
Again, I feel like if now me who's looking to just start over in that line, maybe the BPO industry, and you connect me to someone who has 15 years of experience, I just be like, no, this person is just too far away in their career.
Mm,
I want like someone who's a bit
the
closer. Like
first 4 years,
yes,
5
yes, the
years.
first 4 years, 5 years, because I feel like those are the hardest years. And then how much time is this person going to have? Maybe there are a senior operations manager somewhere. You see, I don't know, but for me, I feel like if I was to consider a mentor career-wise, I'd say 4 5 years of experience. This is me
Perfect
shooting
enough.
my shot to
I
be a mentee, but
accepted.
because so now
we can have that conversation.
we can
have that
okay,
conversation.
sure. Tunapatana nyuma ya tent.
Yes.
No more applications, please. Okay. Anyway, so you've talked about being a husband and a dad, and how has corporate affected that, first of all?
I didn't see that question coming, but
That's why I didn't send no questions.
Has corporate affected that, or has that affected corporate?
What
I think it's the other
You
way
tell
around.
us.
I think that has affected corporate more than
Okay.
corporate affecting that.
Okay.
Because one of the things I've really been intentional about as I'm in the corporate space
Mhm.
is maintaining that work-life balance.
Okay.
I've really been intentional about it. And like I was telling you earlier on,
Yeah.
in our previous workplace, we'd get calls at ungodly
Man.
hours. By ungodly hours, I mean I left work at 6 a.m. Why are you calling me at 10
10
a.m.?
a.m. Yeah,
That's
those
an
are ungodly because
hour.
I'm asleep.
I'm asleep at that time.
Yeah.
I would intentionally put do not disturb until I'm close to the working hours.
Mhm.
Like 1 hour before the shift, that's when I remove the do not disturb. Is that sabotage? Just maintain the boundaries for those who are not able to listen to my no.
Mhm.
But more importantly, what my relationships have done to my corporate life is they've given me the push. If I try to think about it, if I was just a single person at the age I am right now, I would easily be very comfortable with
Right now.
because it's not just me, it's the two more souls looking
a
at
whole cocofelon.
Yes, looking at me and thinking, hey, they don't say hey,
Daddy, I need
but
this.
when you go to that supermarket and they are looking at the aisles, you know the supermarket before you get it. You're like, okay, so this aisle has
Here
this,
to
this one has this. Hii aisle hatupiti.
Hini, no.
Tupatane pale mbele.
Yeah.
So that there's that part of it. But corporate life affecting this other side, I would say the most important thing is taking away most of the time. But I'm really glad right now I'm working from home. That has sort of maintained it's not so much of a balance because I'm still working at night.
Yeah.
But it's more of an advantage as compared to when I was going to an office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. Now, how has your relationship with your wife, or rather, how has your wife, like as a human being, affected your journey in corporate? And I'm meaning like positively, because
Positively.
the days I used to leave work and I'm just super exhausted, demotivated, and I'm just like I just want to rant this to someone. Like I just want to tell someone about my day.
You've actually answered it. She was my sponge for the bad experiences. So the about things she's not understanding and she's constantly been the one who's always been absorbing. We've been that punching bag for each other.
Yeah.
So if you're really getting a really bad vibe at corporate, you just come, I'm not getting it, but I'm just listening.
But it's okay.
I'm like, don't give me advice. I just want you to listen.
Exactly.
This is what happened at work today.
Yes.
So you'd find within 5 months, she even knows everybody at work. She's never seen them. She's like, so you show them photos like, oh, undio ule.
Putting her face
in a
behind
good
the
way.
news now.
But she's been that sort of support for me. When I'm not comfortable with work, of course, she's never told me to quit. But ideally,
oh, really? That's not a thing in marriage.
To quit work.
Todo.
No, you can quit work, but then unaquit unakula nini? So sometimes, by the way, let me tell you something. The question we talked about, we talked about a lot of things before we started the podcast. And all the things we talked about is we were in a place where it was getting high attrition. And all the things I asked you is where the people who are retreating, what is their age group? What are their responsibilities? And where are they at in life?
Yeah.
So you find for marriage, guys, sometimes you find a married person sticking in a place for 30, 40 years, and you're wondering, Never gonna tell someone to stick around. It's not for them.
It's not for them.
It's for other people. That's why sometimes you find our parents humiliating at a place for a very long time. You're like,
Yeah.
me was given your boss, I would quit today.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, and you'd not eat. So for them, you don't have the luxury of just quitting and going home. The people who are depending on you, unless you have a very huge money market fund or an emergency fund that can last you for a year. Other than that, you have to stick it out as you look for alternatives.
Okay, that makes sense. Attrition.
Attrition,
that's quitting, by the way. Or resigning.
People who are quitting.
Kwa TikTok wataanza kuniambia mi ni mzungu naongea tangu wazungu. But anyway, yeah, attriting is quitting.
Yes.
So in your opinion, and I'd like to, I had talked about this and I saw my friend ask this on Twitter. In your opinion with on interviews, right? Do you think, have you ever followed up on an interview?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
okay, followed up 2 months ago on a certain company. Yes.
Now, I'm not sure whether you have been in the position where you're receiving the follow-up emails.
No.
Have you?
Follow-up emails from companies?
No, from now, people who are looking to get the jobs.
Yeah.
You have?
Yes.
What's your opinion on following up on interviews?
If you know you did well, it's okay to follow up.
What about?
But I'm also of the perspective of companies should give feedback. That's my opinion. Companies should give feedback.
Yeah.
If somebody does not do well, at least tell them we are not progressing with your application. As simple as that. And I've been very favored. The many companies that I've done interviews with, they've always given me feedback.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Or I'm not always given feedback. I'm like, no, I don't want to continue with
okay. Do you think if you are not good enough at the interview and you follow up, do you think that will make a change? Do you think they would consider you to a certain degree?
Let me surprise you. There's somebody who got a job because of following up. Somebody who I know, they got a job because of following up. And what had happened is they had done the interview, they were given a project, and they did not do it so well.
Okay.
But they knew they could do it better. So their following up was to ask, is there anything else they can do to make the project better? They realized they did not do A, B, C, D. And out of that, they actually got the job because the person realized, okay, this is a person who's actually interested in growth, and they realize their own mistakes and they're willing to come forward and actually correct them. So that is a part where I would say the truth is it's a 50-50 chance.
Yes.
Because you're not in every interviewer's head.
Yeah.
But sometimes the safest option I give guys, it's as easy as asking the interviewer, hello, I know this interview, we've done it today. When can I receive feedback from you? Or when can I follow up? After how long should I follow up for the progress of the interview?
Okay.
Especially if you know you have the interviewer's email address, or maybe they reached out on LinkedIn. That gives you access to them, unlike when you just have a recruitment email.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot. So asking like the question, in how long do you guys respond typically?
Yes.
Also, I feel like you can also research about that and just see they respond in like a week. So after a week,
but it doesn't hurt to know to ask them after how long do you guys respond.
Yeah,
if they tell you a week and you don't get response within a week, yeah, that's feedback.
Really?
They said within a week and it's 2 weeks and they didn't give you feedback.
Okay.
So that's feedback.
Okay, yeah.
That's feedback. You didn't ace it.
Okay. But I also feel like they should actually tell you why they're not progressing with your application. Like pinpoint.
They can. You made me look like a bad person here. But anyway, they can, but it's not a must. Let me give you an example. I've mentioned the company name.
Beep.
We'll beep that part. Let me give an example.
Okay.
At the company we're working for, you'd find in one day you're interviewing close to 500 people.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. You'd interview close to 500 people in a day, and you're doing those interviews for a month. How are you able to give feedback to those many people? So that's roughly like 2,500 people a week.
And out of the 500, mnachukua ngapi?
It depends with whichever business is looking for them.
Okay.
Yeah, remember to beep the company name.
Oh.
I've sold myself, I said the company name. But yes, so ideally, if you think about it, you realize it depends with the scale of the operation. But I tell guys, it's initiate the conversation. After how long should I expect feedback? And do you guys actually send feedback? If they say they don't send feedback, then if I don't get responses after 2 weeks,
Then
then
I
you're
don't. I didn't.
automatically
Yeah.
out, and that gives you the peace of mind to know that. And there's some companies that send you an email to tell you, we automatically respond within 2 days. If you don't receive a response from us within 2 days, then no, we did not progress with
You
the
did not.
interview. Yeah.
Okay. I used to think that a rejection email can change how, like, that anxiety, that job, keep thinking about the job. But I can promise you're not ready for the rejection email. Utalia wewe.
Yes, yes,
Woo! You
yes,
think breakup text hurt.
yes.
Utaangalia your email in disbelief.
Interestingly, I always expect the rejection first before the successes. Maybe I kick myself out before the successes, and that helps me keep myself. Remember what I told you?
Because I'm the opposite.
Interview and move on. If you stick there, there's a company I interviewed for, and I knew when I passed this interview, the amount of money I'm going to get, I was so excited. And then later on, I was like, by the way, just stop. Just stop before you get. And I was heartbroken 2 days later. And that was a learning point for me. Interview and move on.
But now, what do you mean? You see, by move on, where you already have a job, you're working. You can. It's easy because what about that?
No,
that
I also
person who
want a
does
better
not.
job.
What
Who
about
told
that?
you I've gotten to the climax of my career? I want another job.
Okay, but what about that someone who does not have any other job? What does moving on look like to them?
Moving on looks like you're not giving up and you're not putting your hope in one place.
Okay.
When I say move on, I'm not saying like, hey, you're just sitting down there, move on. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, I know you've taken your time to apply for this position, and it's not been an easy journey for you. And getting this position would change everything for you. And that's where your hope is at, getting this one position. But at the same time, I also don't want you to get crushed. So do this, apply. And once you're done with that application, or they call you for an interview, don't put your hopes there.
Okay.
Move on to the next application.
So moving on looks like going to other applications, like still apply, look for.
Still apply.
So see at song and a life.
No, move on to another application.
Okay.
Because you never know where your hope is going to be satisfied.
That's interesting.
That's my perspective of moving on.
I feel like you should actually get back to podcasting.
Yes.
The gems, my friends.
Thank you.
Can't wait for this episode to drop. That's actually very interesting. So move on to other applications. Gatweri.
Don't put your hope. And let me say this. I know many of us, our hope is in getting that email.
Yeah.
And even as you go for those interviews, I don't put my hope in the interviewer. I believe God is able to open doors for places where you never expect or you never anticipate.
Yeah.
So it is more of, I'm going to that interview and I'm going to sell myself like cabbages. But even as I sell myself like a cabbage, my hope is not in the interview. My hope is not in the process. My hope is in God. He's always able to satisfy my desires, even with ways that I don't anticipate.
Okay.
Yes. So I do my best in the interview, also believing that if this is a place He's destined for me to work, I'll get a gig there. If not, it's a redirection.
Yeah.
But this was not the place. And remember what I told you earlier on. If a rejection comes in, it simply means what you have is not suited for this place. It's not that what you have is bad. It's that what you have is not suited for this place. It's definitely going to find a place where it's satisfied. And not satisfied, where it's needed.
Yeah.
And if you find what you have is not needed, maybe it's because what you have is very common. And because of that, it cannot get a place because there's everyone else who has the same skill set.
Yeah.
Maybe you can try to figure out why was it not accepted here and how can I fine tune it to get it to a place where it will be desired by others.
Yes.
Especially, and I'm talking about this in a market where we believe it's fair. Because how you got it in the previous company, it was very fair. You did not know anybody.
Yes.
Exactly. So in a market that is fair, we believe that what you have should be needed somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's interesting. And as sad as it is, sometimes you pray about these things, you fast, and imagine it's not God's will for you to work there.
And it is very
crazy.
okay.
No, I once prayed so hard for a job I really, really wanted to get. And I prayed, and every time I could pray, I could feel like my prayers are hitting the wall. You see how you can feel it. You can feel the rejection coming.
It's not the time.
But I'm just like, no, God, you have promised me the good things. I mean, what is this to you? And every time my anxiety would get worse. And I could just feel God telling me, Apana, not this.
And I get you. I know of someone who's been job searching for the last 5 years. And the last
Oof.
gig that they got was really frustrating for them. And I'm sharing this without their permission. But the one thing we came to agree at the end of it all, even in these rejections, we've still been getting provision.
Yeah.
We've still been eating. We've still been, of course, we're not happy with the rejections,
Yeah.
but we've still been getting provision. We've still been eating. We've still been having a roof over our heads. And we are really glad about that.
Mhm.
And we hope that the day it opens up, it will open up. But even as it opens up, we are still fine tuning our skills
Yes.
as we wait for those. And also grabbing every opportunity we get our way.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, as you wind up, I actually wanted us to talk about religion in corporate, and I know it's really messy.
And I just brought it.
Yeah. Yeah, he just sprinkled,
Yes.
sprinkle.
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like for the industry, like maybe the previous job I was working at, and it was really crazy because you're not guaranteed getting Saturday, Sunday off days. You remember, like it's not. And sometimes for those people who came out as I'm a church leader somewhere, I have this responsibility in church, you are considered as like, Sasa wewe, you are not fit for this place. Because I know several people have quit because of that. I really don't
am I the one to speak to that?
Yeah, because I know you were not working on weekends. You're always off on weekends.
Yes, right? But before I was not.
Oh, yeah.
Before I was not. So this is what we discovered with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
We may not go to our favorite church.
Mm-hmm.
We may not go to our favorite church. Like we all have our favorite church, the one that we really, really like.
Yes.
But our favorite church sometimes has a midweek service.
Okay.
So you don't have to go to church on Sunday.
On Sunday.
We can go to that midweek service on Wednesday. That also works. And there might be another church that you'd really consider that has a service on Monday.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So those options also work.
Yeah.
Those options also work. But then, this is what I say about religion and corporate. Sometimes corporate does not care whether you're born again or not. It doesn't care about your religion.
Sadly.
And that's the sad part of corporate, because it's about a transaction. But personally, I made it my intention. Just because they don't care about it, it doesn't mean I don't have to care about it. So how do I care about it? I make sure, in as much as I may not get that Sunday once, I'm trying to get it either on a Wednesday, where I can go to a fellowship on Wednesday, or more importantly, I make sure I have close-knit friends who I can always fellowship with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that if I don't get that chance to go to church on Sunday, I'm still have people who I'm communing with, and feeding myself spiritually, and also maintaining the daily disciplines of reading your word, praying, so that you don't get stifled.
Yeah.
You don't get stifled spiritually.
Okay.
That's a very important part for me. Now, am I saying we don't go for jobs that we go for jobs that don't allow us to go to church on Sunday? If you sense that this is really killing you off, it might be time to reconsider.
Yeah.
But those are other options that could easily work.
Yeah.
Because I have a friend who tells me the Sunday service does not work well for him, but there's a place he goes to for the Wednesday service, and it really feeds him spiritually.
That's nice.
Yeah, so there's always those alternatives to consider.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they work. They work.
Yes.
That's nice. Now, what's one thing that you think corporate has taught you? This is my second last question, actually. So just relax.
You're finishing like a pastor. As we sum up, as we end, as we come to a conclusion.
So, what?
Yes.
Oh my God.
The second last question.
What's one thing you'd tell? What's one thing corporate has taught you? What one positive thing that corporate has taught you, and you think you wouldn't have learned this lesson anywhere else in any other industry?
Corporate taught me to communicate my value.
Nipatie any pen?
Like know how to communicate your value. It's not, you can be valuable, but if you don't know how to communicate it, they don't care. Because not so many people have the laxity and the time to see your skill set and to sit down to observe it. You know how to communicate your value. So if an example of an interview, know how to communicate your value. What are you good at? How well can you? An example, how I got the training gig, it's learning to transition the pastoral experience and teaching kids in Sunday school and PPIs to show that actually that transitions to being a trainer.
Yeah.
Because that's how I got the training job. How do you then communicate that value? So that's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not about just going for the interviews. You can be
Mm-hmm.
really nicely dressed,
Yeah.
but how are you communicating what you're worth? An example, you can say, someone can ask you, so do you have communication skills? Yes. Someone can ask, do you have communication skills? Yes.
Yes.
Actually, as recently as yesterday, I was hosting a podcast. So I've been having this communication challenge quests where I invite guests and ask them questions, and we have these amazing conversations.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those conversations, I've been getting this number of views
Mm-hmm.
because people have been getting the points that I've been communicating. Just getting that as an example.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yes. So learning how to communicate that value or what you have to somebody who understands this from a corporate perspective.
Okay.
That's what I've really taken home, and what I try to always make. And that's why we have, they put those LinkedIn jokes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yes.
That's really nice.
Yes.
Now, as we tukimalizia ya ukweli, this is the last point now. There's two people I want you to talk to.
Yes.
There's this one person who's just starting off their journey in
Mhm.
corporate, and they're just maybe a few months, a few years into it, and they feel like they're almost giving up. This is not for them. Okay, you've gotten that.
Yes, the one who's almost giving up. Yes.
That's the first group of people. The other group is this is someone who is job searching, and they are getting so many rejections, and they are thinking that corporate is almost not
the place for
what's
them.
for them. Yeah.
What if it's not the place for them?
Man, okay, just talk to them. I don't know. Yeah, by then what?
No, I'm just asking, what if it's not the place for them?
So then what next?
Think about it. As Jack Ma was rejected even from, what's it called? Is it KFC or McDonald's? And he's a big billionaire right now. What if it's not the place for them?
Okay, and then what? Oh, okay. Now, how should they proceed? How should they proceed?
What I've said, knowing what do you have to offer. I think most times when we get rejections, we think that because I've gotten these rejections, time's up for me, or I am done. But sometimes we have to ask ourselves, why am I getting this number of rejections?
Okay.
I know sometimes we pay people to do our CVs, and we do all of those shenanigans. But first of all, understand, what are you offering in the marketplace? Don't think about what course did I do, but ask yourself, what am I actually offering the marketplace? What skills do I have? What opportunities am I looking for in line with those skills? That's a very important point.
Yes.
Because once you master that, it even narrows your job search. You know where to go to and where not to go.
Yes.
That's a very important thing, because it's not every job is for you to apply.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, you've already figured that out and you're still getting rejections. Then we might have to change the strategy.
Okay.
The strategy could include get people who are already in those fields, offer to work with them, get as a way of getting those skill sets, and then ask them to recommend you because they already know you have those skills.
Yeah.
That could be a perfect opportunity for you to consider those alternatives. So there are so many options to look into. Don't just think about, I'm getting rejections in this field, what else do I do? But there's so many designs you can go about it. Okay, I'm getting rejections because I'm only sending interviews. What else can I do to put me where I want to be? So look at all those fields. Consider people who are already in those fields. Reach out to them. Consider volunteer. I know some of us have volunteered and still not getting those opportunities. Consider, I know when you say about reaching out to people, I'm not talking about backdoor connections.
Okay.
I'm talking about people who you know are actually good at those fields and reaching out to them.
Yeah.
Now, somebody's already in corporate and you're feeling like you're giving up. Why are you giving up?
Okay, Dad.
Like that's the question. No, I'm not saying like, why are you giving up?
Wait.
Go back to work. No.
Like my dad. See, why are you giving up? Like,
ask yourself. Maybe it's those dad and are just coming to me.
It is.
ask yourself rather, what is making me want to give up? Maybe you are sold the hope that corporate is just waking up in the morning, going to an office and sitting down and getting money at the end of the month. That is not corporate.
Ooh.
Maybe you're not ready to put in the hard work. That could be the reality. Ask yourself, what is making me want to quit? Not why. Ask yourself, what is making me want to quit? List down all of them. Is there a solution to all of these problems? If yes, do you want to get the solution or not? If you don't want to get, you can quit.
Well and good. You can quit. Okay.
But if you want the solutions, you can actually get to them and solve them. Sometimes it could be as simple as, I don't like my manager.
Yeah.
And maybe you may find it's not that you don't like the job, you just don't like the workplace. So a solution could be, let me get a different workplace.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's always all those options to consider.
But if they fail?
Today you made me like the corporate advocate.
You are.
But
Corporate
ideally,
uncle.
if you think about it, and we talk about corporate, we sleep at least 8 hours a day. We have 8 hours of rest, if we have that is, but we work for more than 8 hours a day. That's where we're going to spend most of our lives.
Yeah.
And it's important that as we get to those corporate places, we are working in places that we love, we enjoy. And if we don't love them, we have a way of compensating for that. So figure out why you're in this job. Why do you want it? Why do you enjoy it? What do you like about it? What don't you like? And figure out a way of compensating for that so that you're not frustrated for the other of your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Wow. We are winding up now for real. Tumemaliza sasa ya ukweli.
Yes.
Tumemaliza.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Wandeto.
Thank
That has
you.
been like so, I don't know, mind-blowing, like
4 years,
eye-opening. Ukifika 15 years. Hey! Jamani,
Yeah.
utakuwa nini motivational speaker. But that has been very eye-opening.
Thank
I really
you.
like that you've been so raw and authentic in sharing your corporate journey.
Thank
I
you.
really love to see that. You guys see there's the good side of corporate. I mean, oneni vile Victor ana
It's
glow.
paying my bills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're happy. So thank you
Yes.
so much, Wandeto. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you honoring my invite or your invite.
Maybe, guys, I invited myself. You never know.
did. You never know.
Thank you
But
for
thank you
having
so much.
me.
This has been very interesting. I hope you guys learned something. I hope one of you learned something because I knew Wandeto. Like I said, I was looking forward to this interview for the longest because I have my next guest who's Myriad, and I've always told her, don't you think Victor is someone to host in your podcast? Even before I transitioned to YouTube. Your time when you were at work, I was just like, Victor is someone interesting we can host on your podcast because I knew like you have something to share, like that is not just juju yenye we are talking about. And I'm really glad to have chotted from that cup of wisdom. So I really hope that your journey in corporate is going to be better.
Yes.
I am manifesting better jobs for you, and I really hope it's going to fulfill your dreams. Yeah, that's all I'm hoping for you because you've been very helpful. So thank you so much, guys, for watching this episode. I'm going to leave Victor's Instagram handle. Do you want us to leave it?
Yeah, you can leave the Instagram.
Okay, we leave
You can
Victor.
leave the Instagram, yes. Or the LinkedIn.
Oh, the
LinkedIn
that
is
should have
better.
okay. Oh,
But yeah, just leave
That
the
makes-
Instagram.
you know what? Actually, guys, we leave Victor's LinkedIn as well and his Instagram. I don't know why you would go to his Instagram, but oh well. All right. We're going to leave it so that you guys can, learn from his LinkedIn. Hata mi naenda kuiangalia
I don't think it
because
has content. It's just an easier place to contact me.
okay.
Yes.
Sawa. Thank you so much, guys. Make sure you subscribe, comment, like, and share. This episode has been very insightful. I hope it has been for you. If you have any thoughts, comments, channel them through my page. Then I'll screenshot and send it to Victor. Thank you. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. I hope you have a lovely rest of your week ahead. Victor, say bye to my fans.
Bye, guys.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure to have all of you.
Bye. See you.